Welcome back to the In-Pencil podcast. I'm Adam.
And I'm Jess.
And we've got all kinds of new stuff going on over here. So where to begin, to be honest.
Yeah, so it is, as we're recording, today is March 3rd, which is a big day in video game history. It's the 7th anniversary of the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, wow. Wow. And they've put out like 16 versions. Nice.
Technically 3.
All right, slight exaggeration.
4, well, 3 different versions, but they have some updates. Like there's an updated version with a better battery of the original Switch, but then they did the Switch OLED, and of course they have the Switch Lite. I'm really mad that they did the Nintendo Switch. Then they did the Nintendo Switch Lite, but they called it the Nintendo Switch OLED and not the Nintendo Switch Bright. So we would have had the Switch, Switch Lite, and Switch Bright. It would have been so great.
Well, we got to talk about some life updates real quick.
Yeah.
We had to absolve ourselves from responsibility for not recording since we did the list for 2023. We haven't done really anything at all. I guess we've done a couple of videos, like the Fallout video and the video that you posted about the Zelda thing.
And I've got
Zelda naming.
And I have papers for the next Zelda video that I'm doing.
Yeah, we've moved into for the in-pencil YouTube channel, we've begun. I say we. Jess has begun to actually do things like script. Write scripts for things.
I always write scripts. I have a whole thing of scripts. Some scripts I've written that I've never recorded videos to because I just decided I didn't like the videos.
Yeah. Well, so at the moment, Jess has moved to a new place. That's not where we once were, and I've moved to a new place, which is not where I once was. And these two places are not near the same place as each other. But I think if you drew a triangle from where we used to live to where you are to where I am, it would make kind of like a right, what they call it, it's a 90-degree angle, and is that an isosceles triangle? What's it called?
A 90-degree angle is called a right triangle.
Oh, it's a right triangle. Yeah. So my geometry sucks. So it would make a right triangle, basically. I think.
So we've both moved to new locations, undisclosed, than our old locations, undisclosed. Yes. But yeah.
Yes.
So we've had a lot of
higher tax rates for both.
So we've had a lot of changes.
Yeah. I'm in the process of buying a house. I just bought a camper, and I just started a new job, and everything's crazy right now. So the in-pencil stuff has been kind of in a perpetual pause, more or less, which isn't much different from what it has been for the past couple of years. But that is to say that now that we're finding a little more stability, and maybe we can pick back up and move into the next phase of in-pencil life. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. In-pencil 2, Electric Boogaloo.
I don't know what that means. Okay.
Actually, I don't remember. It's a sequel, isn't it, to some movie in the 70s, 80s?
Sure. I'm going to say yes. It sounds like a sequel to some sort of Will Ferrell or something or another.
No, this is Will Ferrell.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. It's a dance musical film from 1984.
That's why I don't remember it.
As a sequel to the 1984 breakdancing film Breaking. What? It came out the same year as the original? You did.
Strange. Anyway, we have lots of things to discuss.
Apparently Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo.
No, we're not doing that. We're not going to some side project over here. Yeah. Well, let's give a little bit of a moment of silence for, the bands that we're losing this year and into next year.
How about
You
we
know,
got to do the "In the Arms of an Angel"?
yeah, got some Sarah McLachlan.
Yeah.
Let's just give thanks to Sum 41 and to NoFX for being around for the past 20 to 30 to 40 years. You know, because they're both really good pop punk kind of bands that are calling it quits. And it's sad. But Sum 41 off of this off of the news that they're wrapping up their careers as Sum 41. They're doing really well from chart performance wise with their last album. So, that's good. And so they're going out on a high note, which is good because like their early career was like really high, and then they had a big dip because the decline of popularity of pop punk, and now recently they've had a bit of an incline. I think in part of the retirement, also in part of the sort of return of pop punk. So yeah. Do you have anything you'd like to say about Sum 41? Any memories?
I remember their one famous song, and I forgot its name.
Fat Lip. They had several famous songs.
Yeah, they're one famous. Let's see. Hold on. Let's look up Sum 41. Were they a one-hit wonder?
No, they were not a one-hit wonder.
Okay, so let's put it this way: did they just have one top 40 hit? I should say, because like the one-hit wonder means they're a flash in the pan, right? That's what a one-hit wonder is supposed to mean. But we've taken that to mean to any band that's only had one top 40 hit, and then had a great success afterwards and beforehand. But we're like, oh, but they only had one hit, therefore they're a one-hit wonder. And I'm like, Blink 182 is not a one-hit wonder. They just had one top 40 hit.
Well, they had more than that now. So.
Oh, have they officially gone over? Oh,
I believe so.
Let's look it up.
Anyway,
I want to do a video on one-hit wonders and the problem with the definition, and also the problem with so much about it.
Think about it. They've had All the Small Things, I Miss You, What's My Age Again, The Rock Show, Up All Night.
Well, here, I'm going to tell you some things that are wild. So, because hit is defined as a top 40, What My Age Again was 58. All the Small Things was 6. The Rock Show was 71. I Miss You was 42. Up All Night was 65. After Midnight was 88. And Bored to Death was 85. Edging was 61. And One More Time, More Than You Know, was 62.
You know what? That criteria is utter bullshit. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. Sum 41.
Yeah, so that's just shows you how weird the whole idea of. So next time, all I'm trying to say is next time someone says a band is a one-hit wonder, first of all, half the time they have more than one hit. I don't know how many bands that get classified as a one-hit wonder who actually have more than one top 40 hit. And the other half of the time, they may only have one top 40 hit, but they're actually really well known. I think a lot of more people know Blink 182 better than like. I'm trying to think of somebody who has like 5 or 6 top 40 hits in the early 2000s that nobody thinks about anymore. Nelly Furtado. Who thinks of her?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Watch her. Big following.
She is on a bit of a comeback as well.
Yeah,
Sum 41. Sum 41
anyway,
can't
we're not
count as a one-hit wonder because they've never had a one hit. Because
they never had one hit.
Yeah. Well, according to the Billboard
Canadian,
100,
that's great.
They're Canadian.
That means they've had a lot of Canadian hits.
Okay.
Because I generally think you got to count the band that where they're from as the primary, like where they care about the hits, and they're primarily from Canada. Anyway. Let's see. They had Fat Lip, In Too Deep. Oh, In Too Deep. I forgot about that song.
In Too Deep. Right. I forgot. And there's Pieces and Screaming Bloody Murder. They've had a lot of.
Yeah, I mean,
they're
definitely
on their discography, but yeah.
I bet they're one of those bands that if you're like our age, if you're like, what are they called? Geriatric millennials, elder millennials, whatever you want to call us, or Gen X, or
We're not Gen X. Jesus Christ.
we're not Gen X, but I mean, if you're like Gen X to older millennial, you probably could go to a Sum 41 concert and go like, I know one song, and then by the end of the night, you're like, oh man, I forgot I knew all those songs.
Yeah.
I did that with Jimmy Eat World one time. I was like, I know one Jimmy Eat World song, and I was like, oh no, I don't.
What, the middle? A praise chorus?
The one that got me was, oh, what is it called? Sweetness. I forgot Sweetness.
Sweetness. Yeah.
I actually lie. I knew a few of their newer songs when I went to see them.
Yeah.
But that's not important. I was like, of their old stuff, I know one song, and then Sweetness started playing. And I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about this song. This is clearly a song I know. That was a cool story.
It's always sad whenever a band you've so Sum 41 and No Effects neither have ever been like my favorite bands, but like they've always been like on the peripheral of the bands I listen to. You know what I mean? Like the core of that genre of bands I listen to is Blink-182, Green Day, Reliant K, Amberlin, Emery, Under Oath, Bad Religion. And those are like the core. No Effects and Sum 41, and Jimmy World, whoever. They're on the outer edge of like that circle of bands I listen to, but they're still, they're in the mix. So,
well, I mean, the problem is Hollywood now has so much special effects that you just can't live with no effects anymore.
it's terrible.
Yeah, it was very terrible. Do you like how I did the pause?
That from the just
Do you
pause
like
for impact for processing the computer chips, like the hamster in the background of my brain is like running, like, what the hell is he talking about? Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, good, very good. Let's keep the dumb jokes. So we have to make sure this is the most awkward podcast on the internet. Like, it has to be, you know what I mean? It's got to be like that, awkward, just awkward silence.
We need awkward silence because awkward silence works so great on podcasts. Everybody loves when everyone's just standing around doing nothing.
That's my whole life. Awkward silence, and that's why I listen to bands like Blink-182 and Jimmy Eat World, I guess. But anyway, what else is new? The Jurassic stuff, the Jurassic 4, Jurassic Park 4, no, Jurassic World 4, Jurassic Park 7 movie.
What are we talking about here?
I'm just pulling out my list of things that are like that's happened since we last talked about the Fallout TV show and everything else. So now it's like the Jurassic World 7 movie with like a new director. The dude who wrote the first two Jurassic Park movies is coming back to write this movie. So maybe it'll be good. Maybe it'll be a prequel.
What is this about? Didn't they like? I have not seen.
I don't know.
Okay, I was gonna say I've not seen Fallen Kingdom. Fallen Kingdom or Dominion. I mixed the two together, which, from what I hear, doesn't actually make the movies worse. It's just like merged.
There were, yeah. There was. It's like if you were to like chart the goodness of the Jurassic movies on like a graph, it'd be like Jurassic Park would be at the very top, and like Lost World would be a little further down, and then Jurassic Park 3 would be like even further down, it'd be at the bottom, right? And then Jurassic World, not the Lost World, Jurassic World would be like a spike.
Yeah.
And then Fallen Kingdom would be like a downward, but still a little bit of a spike higher, a little bit higher than JP3. And then Dominion would be like down at the same level as JP3. So with David Koepp coming back in, who's the writer of the original, well, he was, Michael Crichton wrote the books that inspired the movie, but like from a scripting standpoint, David Koepp wrote the script, and of the general adaptation for Jurassic Park and the Lost World. So with him coming back in, maybe we'll have another spike. Maybe it'll be, nothing will ever be, all the way the charting, the top of the chart with Jurassic Park, but maybe it'll be.
I cannot. I always say, like, one of the things that my daughter will never understand is being in the theater in 1993 or whatever, and hearing that surround sound for like the first time and being like, "This is weird." So this is like going from where you only have one headphone, like take your headphones, put them in your ear, but take one out and listen to music with just one headphone in one ear, and then putting a second headphone in. And just like, that's how big of a change it felt like when they did the or when they did the music of Jurassic Park. It felt so much different for a however old kid I was at the time, 8 or 9,
Yeah.
10, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just like, it was such a big deal to see that movie in theaters, and it's not as big deal anymore because we have things like whatever that's called, where you go and you really get to see like really cool effects of a movie. What is that called?
IMAX.
IMAX, yeah, you have IMAX
Yeah.
now, so it's kind of like norm. But back then, it was so cool. It's still one of my greatest memories of seeing a movie in theaters. There's very few movies that actually did something like, "Wow, this was great," or "Wow, this was awful." But that was a "Wow, this is amazing" movie, and it was. It was a survival horror movie, marketed to children.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Michael Crichton's whole idea behind, we've talked about this before, but his whole idea behind writing Jurassic Park originally was to basically write a sci-fi movie or novel about, which eventually his idea was to be adapted into a movie from the beginning, about experiencing recreation of dinosaurs from a children's perspective. That's why the first two kids are in the first movie, the first book, Lex and Tim. That's why in the book for Lost World, there's two other kids that are experiencing the events of that book. You're seeing it from their perspective. Like, you're getting the science stuff from like the adults, like Ian Malcolm and Alan Grant first, and then the other characters in the second book, and then in the movie The Lost World that comes through with Ian Malcolm's daughter-ish, whatever. And then in Jurassic World, you get the kids. There's always kids involved. So his whole idea from the very beginning was to have it from a kid's perspective, which is why the TV series, the Camp Cretaceous TV series, is so in line with what the Jurassic universe is supposed to be, because they're experiencing everything from a kid's perspective. So that was the idea. So yeah.
Yeah, I never really thought about that. But that is that's such a great way, is to have the person who, in a lot of times in stories where you have the person who does not understand what is going on in the story. So you have a lens to look at the story. So they'll ask the dumb questions that you, the reader, needs to know. And you'll see this in movies and TV shows where they're answering something that everyone in the room obviously knows the answer to because they're all experts in this. But you, the viewer or reader or whatever, don't know because you are not an expert in this, and they kind of need you to know a little bit about how this is going to go down. It's always good to have like a kid where it doesn't seem like they're just talking to you, the audience, or having to put a footnote in it to say like, "Hey, this is what this means here when we're going to do this." The Jurassic period was a period where dinosaurs lived. 60-something million years
65.
ago.
It was actually most of the animals are actually from the Cretaceous period, 65 million years ago.
Cretaceous. Welcome to Cretaceous Park. Yeah, that doesn't work as well.
But Camp Cretaceous does work, and that's what the TV show was. So
yeah, it has the alliteration.
Yeah, I like how you put the actual grammatical name on it. So, like alliteration. You know what I mean? To CC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm complimenting you.
Oh, thank you. I was like, I don't know what I will say another thing that Jurassic World series did that that over the Jurassic Park series is something that I'm starting to see more because I watched the Super Bowl a few weeks ago.
Seymour, Jurassic Park, Futurama.
That is awful. It really is. Do not watch that episode. Do not do that to your worst enemies.
Anyway,
Actually do it to
something
your
from the
worst enemies.
Seymour.
Man. Yeah.
That was a good connection, right?
Yeah, it
You have
was
to be good
great.
at this.
If you don't know what we're talking about, look up Futurama's episode Jurassic Park is the name of the episode. It's about Seymour the dog. That's all I'll say, and it will destroy you.
Yeah.
I still remember the first time I watched that. I was in college, and I was watching, I think it was a rerun at the time, and I was just watching it with a friend. We were like just sitting around watching, and after it ended, we just kind of stared at each other in silence, like, why?
Yeah.
Why, dear writers, would you do that? And it's
great. It's great.
It's every list I've ever seen, it's either one or two of the saddest episodes ever in the history of television. Television?
Yeah. Anyway, something you're starting to see more. Get back to what you're saying. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to distract
something
you.
that I am noticing more is that, so in Jurassic Park, it was 2 velociraptors, right? And
there were 3 velociraptors.
3 velociraptors? Man.
There were 3.
One's that's still locked in the yeah, whatever. I forgot one got locked in the kitchen. And apparently is finally coming out in the new game, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I've been in here for 30 years. I'm hungry.
Well, the game takes place the day after the events of Jurassic Park.
Okay.
So he would have been there for less than a day. Or she, whatever. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Something you're starting to see more.
So, like they had the T-Rex, and then they had the 3 velociraptors, or what they call velociraptors. Obviously not real velociraptors, but Yeah. They explain it in Jurassic World. They made things bigger and look scarier.
Well, and it's explained in the book because they just called that creature, it was supposed to be a Deinonychus, but they called it Velociraptor because it's a cooler sounding name.
It is a cooler sounding name. You want cool sounding names, and Velociraptor's cool. If you had an actual Velociraptor, I don't know, those things look like they could be pretty interesting, like little tiny chickens, deadly chickens. I played Zelda series all my life. I know how deadly chickens would be.
Anyway, you never finished your point though.
So I never did. So you had the dinosaurs, these dinosaurs that we knew about, really the T-Rex. Everybody knew about the T-Rex, and that was the big bad guy of Jurassic Park. And the secret bad guys were the Velociraptors. But we all knew about the T-Rex. It was this real dinosaur. And then Jurassic World was like, we're going to create a dinosaur that we're going to call the Abomination Saurus. I forgot what it's called.
Indominus Rex.
Yes. And it's just this idea, like, we have to make it bigger and we have to make it bigger and more dangerous. And then, so I'm watching the trailer for, I'm watching the Super Bowl, and the trailer for this Twister movie comes out.
Right.
And the concept is twisters.
Right.
There are multiple tornadoes happening at the same time. And it's like, you just have to up it. It's like, what if there were more tornadoes? And it's like, it's not more dangerous. 2 tornadoes together is not more dangerous than 1 tornado. That's a Cat 5, which is what was in the original tornado Twister. It was a Cat 5. Cat 5?
Cat 5 is hurricanes. Tornadoes are
F5.
EF scale.
Yeah. So it's F5 tornado.
EF5.
Well,
EF5.
yeah, but okay. We'll do it with the modern stuff. I'm just going to call it F5 because it sounds cool.
That's what it was in the original Twister. It was F5.
Yeah, so it's an F5. Well, they can't tell if it's an F5 until afterwards, but they're predicting that it has the potential to be an F5. Weird thing about how tornadoes are categorized. Excuse me.
But, off just not by.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So yeah, you could have like the world's largest tornado, and it can go over a field of nothing, and it would be an F0. Basically, I don't know how exactly the wind speed.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
that
right.
is exactly right. I didn't know if it could drop that low for a large tornado or if there's like a max low limit for speeds
No,
or
because
whatever.
the scale is based on damage and estimated wind speed. So you can't really get estimated wind speeds unless you know what damage it did. So
That's true.
yeah,
Actually, now I guess you can with new technology.
I mean, I guess, but like they're still not going to assign it that rating until after it's already over. So
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, you could tell. So like it was an EF5 tornado for Adam there to use the
yeah,
official terminology. Um, you're welcome. So and then we're like, we're gonna have two tornadoes. So it's like, first of all, I don't know if two tornadoes beside each other is actually possible, but I guess we're just not going to care about logic in that. And second of
it is
all,
possible.
oh, it is. Okay. Second
Yeah,
of all, I don't know if it's going to be more damaging because it's already pretty damaging if you have a huge tornado. Like, are you going
I
to have
mean,
like two huge tornadoes represent each other? I mean, but the idea
so
is
what
like it
normally
has.
happens in the real world outside of Hollywood, what normally happens is if you have two tornadoes that touch down near to each other, normally they're in some sort of symbiotic relationship, so they'll like circle around each other, and eventually they just merge into one bigger one. That's how it normally happens. So like,
Oh my
but
goodness,
then they're different.
you just given away probably Act 3 of the movie where they merge
Sorry.
into a super
I should write these
F6.
fucking movies. I should go to Hollywood and write some fucking
I
weather
guarantee
movies.
that I'm already predicting it because of what you said. It's going to be two tornadoes that are huge, and then in Act 3, they're going to merge into an F6. And someone's going to say, "That's an F6. We've never seen this before." And then they're
Oh
going to
yeah.
get smacked in the face by cows because in the original movie, it was just one cow.
No, they should have a Jurassic Park tornado episode movie where it's not cows that's being thrown around. It's Brachiosaurus being thrown.
It's a crossover we never expected.
You
The,
love
the
the original
tornadoes.
Twister. You love the original Jurassic Park. What would happen if
It's
after the dinosaurs escaped onto the mainland in Jurassic World Dominion, or whatever, they got caught up in the world's most futile war of man versus dinosaur versus weather in the midst of central Oklahoma. You had Brachiosaurus, you had EF5s. Now you have, I don't know, where we'll go with that.
Sharknado.
I thought about that. I was like, this is kind of already done with Sharknado,
Yeah, we've got Sharknado,
but
Jurassic
no one
Park.
actually watched that. No one actually watched Sharknado, did they?
Sharknado had like 6 movies. Everybody watched it.
Really?
Not everybody, but a lot of people. It was one of those like silly, completely bonkers things that people watch.
Well, if it was a Jurassic Park version of that, I think everybody would watch it. I think everybody would just go and see it.
Well, what would you call it? Raptornado.
You'd have
Rex
anyway.
Yeah. But this idea of like now all movies, they're like, okay, in the 90s or in the 80s or in the 70s, we gave you this enclosed area of this one little small deadly thing. Now we're going to get this huge deadly things, even more. It's like, that's how they market it. It's like, what if we did Twister again? But now, wait, there's more. 2 Twisters.
Mm. And the central theme of it is all about climate change.
But
Just like they have tomorrow is all about.
Yeah, but it's so on the nose because we no longer do subtle. Like horror films used to be, they were never on the nose. They were always very, well, not all of them. A lot of them were on the nose, but they were very subtle. They were like, here's the message. You get the message. Everybody knows you get the message. We're not going to tell you the message, but there is a very clear political message that we're telling you.
The message
now they're like,
Twister 2 is, get you some more tornadoes.
And here's the message. Here's the message. It's right here on the. We got to make sure you know the message. We can't be subtle.
it's popping up on the subtitles below.
There was a time and place for subtle, and that was before Scary Movie, I think was the line.
Yeah.
And Community.
Oh, really?
No, they did a line like something like that, where we can't be subtle anymore. And it's true. It feels that way. Like they don't trust. No. It feels like Hollywood doesn't trust the audience anymore to actually understand.
I just feel like I feel like everyone has run out of ideas. I feel like think about like I think we talked about it before, where like everything is popular now is the same stuff that was popular when we were kids, right?
That's us.
Jurassic, Blink, the Fallout, everything that is like mainstream.
Was Fallout mainstream when we were kids? Really? Come on.
I played the original Fallouts when I was a kid. Okay. I also played Command & Conquer, but like, I don't know. It just seems like everything is.
Well, the thing is, that's on us, and I wonder if that's every generation has done that, because now millennials, we're talking about elder millennials, have the buying power, and they also have the kids they're going to buy for. People always like the kids are the problem, and it's like the kids don't buy things; their parents buy things. So the type of things you see on TV, the type of movies, the type of music is really catering to our age and what we think is acceptable for children of people our age. So that's on us, why we're having more Jurassic Parks.
Mario.
Well, Mario's been around for the whole time. I mean, the movie, I guess, but the franchise is not like dropped off into nothing and come back.
Yeah, but there hasn't been anything new that's come along to replace any of these things. Like, there's not a new Sonic the Hedgehog or a new Mario or a new.
Well, there's
they
rebooted
the Boy Meets World thing, right? Like they're out of all the ideas. So just rebooting of the old stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I think they're taking the safe route, and part of that is the audiences don't want different. And we could get into the psychological aspect of why audiences want the same things we had as kids, because maybe we feel like we're living in such an unstable world and everything's chaos. We just want something familiar. And Jurassic Park, Boy Meets World, Full House.
Trump.
Yeah. Hey, remember Donald Trump from Home Alone 2?
Home Alone, yeah.
But like all these things are familiar, and so we're just like, we want the media that's familiar. Blink 182 was like, yes, it reminds me of when I was 16 or whatever. I haven't listened to Blink in a long time, and we just demonstrated when I talked about earlier. Blink 182 has had hits, top 100 hits, but hits. More hits after like 2000 than in that time period where everybody's like, that's when I listened to Blink. Blink's been around forever, having hits.
Yeah.
It just took them a very, let's just say, getting back into everybody's psyche took a while. It was the long road.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. I forced it. I had it, and I couldn't figure out how to get it in.
Yeah.
We just can't hop us on over there.
So this is really about nostalgia, right? This whole episode is about nostalgia, I think.
Let's see. We started out talking about how a 7-year-old console.
We started out, with some 41 FX.
Yeah, who bring us back. Jurassic Park. Then we got into Twisters. This whole episode's about nostalgia. It's about how all these things, and I bet our 3 listeners would agree. But that's kind of what it is. Like, you have these things, and maybe you forgot that they had middle parts. How many people realize that Jimmy Eat World had hits from a few years ago, besides me, who just happened to be listening to a radio station that was playing Jimmy Eat World?
Yeah. I really find No, sorry, I don't want to go off onto a whole other side tangent, but I do find Jimmy Eat World's trajectory interesting because they start off as like another pop punk kind of warped tour kind of band, and then they evolved into like this indie, like this sort of indie rock uh,
Yeah.
mix kind of thing. But the sound hasn't changed much; just their audience is like shifted over there. It's kind of odd.
Well, I mean, it makes I mean, I know from my perspective, but yeah, it makes sense to me because that's the shift I did, and I think that's a shift at like a large group of people who listen to that pop punk, alt rock, late '90s, early aughts music. As that music disappeared, it kind of evolved into a few different things because let's just face
Mm.
it, punk is dead, right? For,
No,
it's dead. It's
no,
dead and
it's
dying.
not.
500 and Frenzy is dead or dying. Wait, they're back. Are they back?
They are back,
Uh,
back again.
guess who's back? Tell a friend. Anyway, but no, but like the idea of like this type of music is not as big as it used to be because all these musicians and all the music kind of broke into a bunch of different genres. And so it had a big slice of the pie, and then all a bunch broke off and its slice got smaller and smaller to the point that most people don't realize punk is still a thing. Because it did pop punk, at least. Like punk, traditional punk is barely held on, and I don't even know how well it's holding on today.
It's good. It's fine. It's healthy. If
But
Soul Glow, a couple other, yeah,
but you have like this whole diversity of just different genres that have exploded out of these big monumental you have these big moments in music, and I'm not a music expert, so I'm just talking off the top of my head, but I feel like there's these moments that are huge that bring everybody emulates.
yeah, emulates.
Okay, everybody's like this style of music, everybody's doing it. Grunge, rock
Yeah,
and roll in the 50s, grunge in the early 90s, um, and just these different things, and everybody gravitates toward that. And then when it reaches its end, even disco in the 70s, then they kind of scatter back out until the next big connector. And I don't think we've had a next big connector since the late 90s because of like online streaming and everything. You don't have to connect everybody on TV or radio anymore because everybody can just listen to their own Spotify list or their YouTube list or Sirius FM list. Like you don't have to reconnect everybody. Everything's kind of in its own little groups.
yeah,
There's nothing that has to be uniting of all people anymore.
yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that. I think through my lens, that the way I see it, I see like basically like pop punk 2.0 as being like the what it is right now because you have everyone from freaking from NoFX to Olivia Rodrigo right now doing pop punk. You know what I mean? So it's like, and she's like one of the biggest things out there right now, and a lot of her album is pop punk or pop punk adjacent. So it's like I feel like that, and MGK for as much as he sucked, um, Travis Barker contributed to that in some ways. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, it's there. It's not as mainstream, and nothing will
yeah.
ever be as mainstream as just pop. Pop will always be mainstream because
Well, that's by definition what it is.
yeah, and it's lowest common denominator. That's by definition. It has to be. It's not like it's bad that it's like, oh, this is so safe. Well, yeah, that's the idea. It's supposed to hit a wider audience. The stuff that makes it TV, the things that make it on movies, they're the safe stuff. They can't take risk because if they take risk, it costs so much money that studios won't greenlight it, even when it's not a risk. Like Batgirl probably wasn't as big of a risk, but studio didn't greenlight it, and so we'll never see Batgirl, which had Michael Keaton as Batman in it. Apparently, uh, people would have eaten that up because it's Michael Keaton. Wait,
Yeah,
was Michael Keaton in that one? I
I
could
don't
be
know.
wrong. I may be mixing these movies up. I'm not much of a DC
Batgirl.
Universe fan. After Batman versus Superman, watching that movie and being like, okay, that was a thing that happened. And so I just stopped watching their movies after that.
It was
But
Michael
anyway,
Keaton. Yeah, it was.
Michael Keaton was supposed to be in it. That would have been so cool.
Yeah.
I love that the Michael Keaton Batman movies. Like
Yeah.
that would have hit nostalgia so well, and instead they just dumped it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Are they doing a third Suicide Squad now? Trying to see maybe this one will work.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't watch
They're
superhero stuff that much, so
Well, I mean, there are a lot of problems with what DCEU did. They tried to do what Marvel did over 10 years, and they try to do it in 3 years because they're like,
Yeah.
we have an IP of superheroes that people know more, and we have better villains, which they do. I think the villains of DC Comics can be more interesting than the villains of Marvel. I know I could get a pushback on that. And outside of Spider-Man, the heroes of Marvel are kind of boring. But Marvel did a thing where they just took Iron Man and Captain America and Thor, and they made them their pantheon because they couldn't get the rights to some of their other bigger heroes like X-Men and Spider-Man. The MCU did that, and they did a slow build, and it worked. And then it stopped working, and they can't figure out how to make that magic again because they try to take safe bets, which they didn't do initially. And the DCEU is trying to take safe bets, but trying to make it big. Like, we're going to cram it all in a few years. And I feel like that's all movies now. They're like, we're going to try to take safe bets, but we're not going to trust the audience, and we're not going to give it time to build. Like, the reason we like Jurassic Park is not only because Jurassic Park was a great movie. There are a lot of great movies I saw in theaters that was like, that was a great movie that I didn't come back to. It was the slow burn of thinking about, man, that was a really good movie. Home Alone. Home Alone is one of those movies that just slow burn. It just like, it was so big, but it also was something you come back to. And Jurassic Park did that, where they made a sequel, Lost World, which was pretty good, and then they did Jurassic Park 3. But they gave us enough that we would still remember it over the years.
Yeah.
And instead of continuing that, I felt like they just tried, let's make it bigger.
Yeah.
But no, let's have people accidentally come back to the park 40, 30 years later, might have been more interesting. Or someone trying to reopen the park. But they're not trying to make it bigger and rehashing the same plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then taking it to a farther level where now all the creatures are all across the world. I don't know. I ranted a bit there.
It will be interesting to see what direction they go with this new Jurassic Park movie. Because I feel like they may go. There are like gaps in the timeline between the movies, like the first 3 movies, that they could like do some storytelling there. And then there's a prequel to Jurassic Park, which could be done. And then there's kind of a more John Hammond focused story that could be told. And then there's, I don't really know what else they could do with like later Jurassic World stuff, because that was a more compact series than the first 3. But I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. We'll see what Twister 2 looks like too as well.
Oh, we will not. I mean, you might. I will not.
Well, they had another Twister like movie out a couple years ago. I can't remember what it was called. It was freaking terrible.
Yeah, nothing will beat the original Twister. Come on.
Yeah.
It was campy. It was dumb. See, that's the other thing is like they try to make it. I feel like now they try to. And there is something to like the culture we live in, and we have to explain things, and things have to make sense. That they have to logic things that clearly are not possible, but they give it a logic of why it is possible. And I feel like they're going to try to do that. They're going to try to do things that are not possible and try to make it logical. And it's it can get so big where we're seeing the Twisters, and maybe Twisters will do something different. But the thing that made Twister great was not the actual tornadoes. It was, we heard the story about this couple who was getting a divorce, and he had to come back and to get the paper signed, and so he can marry his fiance. And then he remembers how much he loves this, and he loves his old team. And then grandma, they have to go save grandma, and it's just this whole family story of the family coming back together. And you have the evil Wesley, the guy who plays Wesley from Princess Bride, is the bad guy in this.
Yeah.
But like, which was a subplot that was not necessary, but you got to have the villains, I guess. But
Right.
I thought the tornado was the villain, but maybe I'm wrong here. It's like it almost makes it a Disney film where they add an unnecessarily villain. It's like, you don't need a villain. You've got a bigger thing going on here.
Who was the villain in Forrest Gump?
Who was the villain in Forrest Gump?
Who was the villain?
Was there a villain in Forrest Gump?
There was a villain in Forrest Gump.
Was it the boyfriend? Or was it Jenny? Jenny.
It was Jenny.
It was Jenny, wasn't it?
Jenny was the villain in Forrest Gump. See, the Jurassic movies, they made the dinosaurs be the villain. Like at first we think the dinosaurs are the villain. Then you realize actually John Hammond is the villain, right?
Yes.
And Nedry is the villain. Well, Nedry was like a scapegoat villain, but really,
yeah,
John Hammond was the real villain.
Yeah.
And then Forrest Gump, Jenny was the villain.
Yeah.
All along.
Yeah, you have this old bumbling guy in John Hammond, and you're like, oh, he's
adorable.
You're like, how could this have happened? And you just kind of learn, like, this guy's an idiot. Why did he bring his grandkids to this park?
Yeah.
When he knew this wasn't working properly.
I always said, he spared no expense, and yet you've shortchanged your backup and security protocols. You've tied everything into one system. You've relied on one single person to do all the programming for the park. You've underpaid him to make him a disgruntled employee. He's vocally said he's a disgruntled employee, and you did nothing to remedy that situation. You know what I mean? It's like all these different cascading effects that come out to a disastrous situation.
You spared a lot of expense.
Yeah, expenses were spared. Let's just say that.
Expenses were spared. Pay your IT department.
That's the tagline for the Jurassic Park franchise.
Jurassic Park expenses were spared. You should make that. That should be you should do that as our logo for today's episode.
You should.
Jurassic Park expenses were spared. But yeah, that's true. Like, he's the villain. Sometimes we forget who is the villain. They make this other villain, and it's like, you don't need the other villain. Sometimes the villain is not an obvious villain, and you just need it to let it slow burn. I think Jurassic Park did it very well, the original.
Nedry was, who was the guy? What was Newman's name? I forget his name.
Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne something.
Oh no, I forgot his name.
Yeah. Anyway, he was a great choice for the villain because people already villainized him from Seinfeld. So he was like a great person to pick as the character for that. So because he was already the villain of Seinfeld.
Wayne Knight. Is it Wayne Knight?
That is it. Wayne Knight. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway.
He's so good because he seems like a bumbling guy, and you're like, he can't actually be that good at this, and he is. He's just an IT guy. And then you got Samuel L. Jackson in such a that's Samuel L. Jackson role. Yeah.
With a lot less motherfuckers than normal, most of the other roles. Most of the other roles have a lot more motherfuckers than the Jurassic Park role.
Hold on to your butts.
Anyway. Yeah. Like in conclusion, all of the ideas have already been used, and we're just reusing them now. And
No, that's not the conclusion. The good ideas
Oh,
come
okay.
out of it. All the
Oh,
good
okay.
ideas that people feel that studios feel safe greenlighting have been used.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And we're
All right.
rehashing. There are a lot of good ideas out there that they're just refusing to let through because they think wouldn't be good. They think it would lose them money.
Yeah.
They got the
I do
nostalgia
think
glasses on.
Monsters of California was a lot of good ideas, but I think that the budgeting and the acting, they spared expenses on the
They
budgeting.
spared so many expenses.
Maybe in the next Tom DeLonge thing, it'll be less expenses spared. No.
Yeah, there's a we'll have a little bigger budget of California.
Yeah.
But
So anyway, yeah, I don't know what the thesis of this whole episode is, but nostalgia is great, and we're
nostalgia is
gonna miss.
great, but it will choke hold anything that's not nostalgic.
Yeah, that's true. And also, well done to the bands that are
Oh yeah.
completing 20 and 30-year careers.
This whole thing, this whole idea of doing this podcast today came off me sending you something that said Sum 41 is playing their final show next year.
Yeah.
We went way from Sum 41. We
Well,
summed at least
NoFX is doing their
42.
final show this year, which, because you think about NoFX, and NoFX is doing their final show this year, which is, I mean, the good thing, I feel like, in both situations, just like with Amberlynn, when Amberlynn said they were going to quit and then they actually came back, but for a while, like Jay-Z, whenever he said he was going to quit, it's like, you may be like ending this chapter, but hopefully there'll still be music that comes out of these people. So
yeah, it's hard. They're creative people, so they can't just stop.
Yeah.
Because the stuff, it still turns. Like, you can't just turn off the creativity, I'm assuming. Like, it keeps going. And that's what gets them back together, because they're like, I've got so many ideas. So do I. Let's put them together.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, play your better stuff. Play the old songs. I don't like how you changed. It's like, I'm 40 years older than I was when when we did our first song. I have changed.
My first song was about being laid as a teenager, wanting to get, it was on the American Pie soundtrack. I can't really do that stuff anymore.
Yeah. My current song is about getting laid down onto a couch because my back hurts.
My
and
current
I need
song is
help.
about heart pressure medication.
Oh, everything hurts and I gotta lay down very slow. Yeah. I'm in too deep.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm stuck in my seat.
Oh God, life sucks. Okay.
Yeah. You get old, but you do remember the good old days.
The good old days of MySpace and AOL Instant Messenger and Britney Spears before all the crazy shit happened. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. With that, we're going to wrap up. Thanks for listening. Hopefully this episode comes out well with our switch in technology over here. And yeah.
Welcome back to In.Pencil Podcast, episode season 29 or whatever.
This is going to be season 6, episode 1. That's what this is going to be.
You're actually going to title it that? Yeah, yeah.
There might only nostalgia expenses were spared.
Yeah. We do our seasons like British comedies do their seasons, where they'll do like 3 episodes and then 3 years later they'll do 4 episodes.
Season 5 has had like 12 episodes, so we're good.
Ooh, we had a big budget that year.
And a half. Yeah. Anyway.
Welcome to the leap year.
We're gonna, stay tuned to our YouTube channel. We're gonna start cranking some shit out pretty soon. So.
Yep. I had another idea for a video, which I don't know if I can do. I gotta talk to Adam about this, see if he has any ideas. I don't want to give anything away. Otherwise, it will become a.
I've been looking for the thing that we talked about with a thing, and I can't find the thing. So we'll look for more things.
Yeah, I don't think it exists. I think
it does exist. I have a physical copy of it. We'll talk later.
You do have a physical copy. Okay, so we don't want to. We don't want to. It's a music thing we're talking about, and it'll be on the YouTube page if we ever figure it out.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Yes.
Life is not written in ink. We change, we grow, we make mistakes, we learn, and eventually we fade away. Life is written in pencil. Thank you for listening to the In Pencil podcast.